Muy bien, Matthew, gracias por estar en el canal. Bienvenido, es un gusto, es un honor. Quisiera preguntarle sobre uno de sus debuts. Antes del maquillaje, hiciste referente al tema de la dirección de fotografía. Quisiera preguntarle sobre The Bonesville Terror, que es una producción increíble.
Welcome to the channel, Matthew. And like always, like John always does, let's go back to the beginning of your career before all the makeup, all the props, all the special effects. You worked as a in the cinematography, the Devonsville Terror. So, anything you want to tell us about that project, those beginnings? Go ahead.
Well, I was raised on a farm in Oklahoma. I was born in 1956, and my parents owned a dairy, and they milked cows every day, 365 days a year. So how makeup and monsters got into my blood, I have no idea. But I have a picture of myself with a model of Dracula when I was 5 years old. So there must have been something in there. My birthday's on October the 26th. So I was a Halloween baby, so to speak. So I guess I just love monsters. And I started watching movies when, young age. And I was fascinated by how the characters were turned in, how the actors were turned into characters. And I fell in love with that. I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. So I started doing art projects and stuff like that, but also applying makeup to myself as a kid, and got as many books as I could, which was only one at the time. Of course, there wasn't any internet or anything the kids have today. So I learned as much as I could from that. And I picked up a book by Dick Smith in 1965 or 66, and it was How to Do Monster Makeup. And that and the Richard Corson makeup book were my Bibles growing up. And learning about how to take a face cast, how to do makeup, shading, everything else. And I just loved it. So I started working at a local movie theater in the town. And you have to understand, the town I grew up in was only population 4,000. So it was a small town. So I started promoting movies by making costumes, doing my makeup. Every movie that I could, I'd promote the movies for the local theater owner. And I got a lot of accolades from my friends and family, and got my name in the newspaper and stuff like that. Then graduated from high school, went to Oklahoma State University, majored in theater, which I wanted to do because I loved musical theater. I loved acting. I loved all that stuff. So about that time, I thought, 2.5 years into Oklahoma State University in the theater department, I thought, you know what? I need to go to Hollywood to see if I've got what it is to be a makeup artist, because that is my passion, and it's always been my passion. So my parents, I talked it over to my parents, and they said, okay, you can go as long as you finish this semester. And I got, great. Well, that semester at Oklahoma State University, I got all Fs. I didn't, except for one class, and it was theater scenic design, and I got an A+ in that. But only because I knew the professor and we were good friends, and I just loved drawing and all that stuff. But they knew I wanted to do makeup, so I went to Hollywood, not knowing anybody. But I was enrolled in the Joe Blasco Makeup Center, and moved out there. December the 26th, 1977, and immediately got an apartment, went to Joe Blasco Makeup Center. The class really didn't start until February, but I was out there in December. So I showed Joe Blasco my portfolio and everything. He looks at me and goes, wow, you've done a lot. I said, yeah, I'd like to do this. So I think immediately he knew that I wanted I had a passion for this. So he latched onto that, and I was one of his prize students. And after I graduated from there, he put me to teaching makeup, which really reinforced what I had learned. But being this kid and introverted kind of from Oklahoma, it really taught me how to work with people, reinforced what he had taught me and what I was learning from other people. And within that time, he'd recommend me to jobs, and I'd start working and here a job, there a job, et cetera, and gaining my reputation, going in, doing the makeups, doing a great job, and then leaving. But it just snowballed from there. I stopped teaching, and I concentrated on doing makeup and prosthetic makeup, and the rest is history.
Before I continue, three things. One, we decided that I will translate later, so we can let you talk because we love you.
Hey, sorry.
No. Two, I'm regretting it. I was wearing yesterday. I was wearing my Dracula Bela Lugosi t-shirt. I should be wearing it now. Not this crazy dinosaur, for Jurassic Park. And two and three, man, that's surreal. That picture of Dracula and later the Oscars.
I just started working on low budget films, doing blood and gore and things like that, and thought, well, there's got to be more. So I started department heading features and doing straight makeup, prosthetics, anything I could do just to keep my thumbs, my hands into makeup. And about 1989, about the mid-year 1989, I was hired to do a film with William Friedkin. Awesome to me because William Friedkin directed The Exorcist, and Dick Smith did all the makeup. And I was just in awe of William Friedkin. And I'd heard a lot of stories about him, that he's hard and everything, but we got along great because I think he really realized, in all the directors that I've worked with, that I love what I do and I have a passion for it. And I give 200% every job I do. So we got along great. And about that time, when I was doing the makeup called The Guardian, the movie called The Guardian, I got into the union. Well, that is another step up in my career because getting into the union means that you're working on better pictures. You're in the union. You're covered by the union as far as your hours are concerned, your work hours, your rates, etc. And so I got in the union in 1989. Then worked on a movie called Navy SEALs towards the end of the year. Sorry, in 1989. And in 1990, when I was finishing it up and everything, I got a call in the late March from V. Neal to work on Edward Scissorhands. And she says, I really need somebody down here in Tampa with me. Can you get on the plane tomorrow? I said, I will be there. I was right in the middle of a project that was just coming to an end. I said, I got to leave. So I got on the plane. She cleared it with the union rep that I could come back to LA, take my union test, because I wasn't quite in the union at that time. So that was one of my next bigger steps, doing a major motion picture, Edward Scissorhands.
Bueno, también hay otro aspecto y es sobre, hay tres Tormen, que es Tormen la clásica, que es la de Matthew, la Tormen que obviamente conocemos sobre lo de Domiciano, y la última Tormen que ya es la actual, pero la Tormen clásica inspiró a las demás. Así que, ¿cómo fue la experiencia en esta historia que es bastante cruda, bastante buena?
Y solo te faltaría la última, ¿cierto?
Exacto.
Okay, this is a crazy moment for the channel because there are 3 Torment movies. The one that you worked, that is the first one. The one from Domiciano Cristofaro was here on the channel, and the latest one. But Jhon needs to ask you, how was working in this, because it's crazy. There is only one Torment guy that we need. So tell us about working on that old movie like a cult classic, Torment.
Edward Scissorhands was great because one, it was Tim Burton, and two, I had been hired by V. Neal, so I was her right hand on it. She's left-handed, I'm right-handed, so it worked out perfect. We were on the sides of the chairs doing Johnny Depp's makeup every day as Edward Scissorhands, and we got along great. It was one of the best films I had worked on to date, and it was just fun. It was a lighthearted film, and it was great working with Tim Burton and V. Neal and Johnny Depp and of course Winona Ryder, and that's the first time I'd worked with Winona. Well, I finished Edward Scissorhands. That was great. Towards the middle of the year in 1990, and so then came bigger projects because I was in the union. I could work on bigger projects, television projects, whatever I would get. Throughout my career, I really never turned down a project. I turned it down because I was working on another project, but I was always working, doing straight makeup, doing prosthetics, whatever I could to do makeup. And then, let's see, 1992. So 91 came Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula. And I knew the guy who was Greg Canham's coordinator. His name was John Logan. And he suggested to Greg that he hire me to be his second on his applicator on Bram Stoker's Dracula. Well, we hit it off great, and as you say, the rest is history. Working on Bram Stoker's Dracula was like a dream come true because, I was a monster kid. I loved Frankenstein. I loved The Creature from the Black Lagoon, The Mummy, and then Dracula. And to work with Gary Oldman and do all of those makeups and anything else I could do on the set was just mind-blowing to me. And so I was in charge of doing all the on-set application for Bram Stoker's Dracula. And also in that film, of course, as you know, was Winona Ryder. And we just got along great, obviously, because we knew each other from Edward Scissorhands and et cetera, et cetera. So that was a plus. And I knew a lot of the people who were working on the film. The cinematographer, Michael Bajas, who was an amazing cinematographer. I had worked with him in 1988 on Dirty Rotten Scoundrels with Frank Oz directing. Great film. Fun project. And I already knew him when I got onto the set of Bram Stoker's Dracula. I had already worked with Peter Giuliano, who was the first AD. I had worked with Winona. So I knew a lot of people going into Bram Stoker's Dracula. So it was, and all the film crew and the cinematographer, the camera crew, I knew all of them because Michael Bajas would keep the same group all the time. So it was great working with them. They knew how I worked and everything. It was just a wonderful project. And we finished Bram Stoker's Dracula in about February 1992. And I went directly on to an HBO film called Citizen Cone with James Woods, who I'd worked with previously before. Cut to in 1992, later in the year, I worked on quite a few other films, and then Heaven and Earth with Oliver Stone. And during that, we were in Thailand, and Bram Stoker's Dracula came out. I had no idea how it was doing in the United States. You know, I wanted to see it so badly, but I heard only good things about it from people I talked about. And then, so later in the year, I found out that we were considered for an Oscar for that, for makeup. Wow, that was cool. But I must state, I never got in this business to win awards. I got in this business because I love makeup. I love the creativity. I loved working with the production side of it. I loved working with actors. So I never really, that wasn't my goal, winning awards. So come to find out, we got a nomination. And later, in March 1993, Greg Canham, Michelle Burke, and myself won the Oscar and got to go up on the stage and get our Oscars. And you know, that Oscar, it's about 8 pounds. That night, it was light as a feather. It was just wonderful. Besides winning the award, which was mind-blowing for me, my parents were watching on television in Oklahoma. The first call after I won, my dad accepted it, and it was from the Associated Press, and they wanted a comment from my dad about, well, your son just won the Oscar. What do you know? He said, I have 3 boys. Matthew's the youngest, but tonight he's number 1. And that meant so much to me. I just, having my parents, before they passed away, see me win the Oscar and go, I wasn't a flash in the pan. I knew, because they were like, it's a hobby, you'll grow out of it. It was just the best experience ever, period.
And beautiful. And before I continue, I remember, and you had to help me, because that was with Dracula, but later, because you mentioned James Woods, you made amazing work. I watched Ghost of Mississippi, and how do you manage to become that really? Yes, because he seems like a nice guy. You make it like a demon from. But what other movies did you get nominated? Was that just those 2, no? Dracula and Ghost of Mississippi. Any other?
Oh yeah, there was Bram Stoker's Dracula. There was, and I think the next year was Schindler's List.
Oh, we got the amazing Norbert Weiser here, by the way.
Oh yeah, great. That my contribution on that was not as much as Bram Stoker's Dracula, but that film to me historically is obviously amazing, just amazing.
You also did the makeup. Gracias, Jhon. You also did the makeup for Hillbilly's Elegy. Well, I love that. I love what you did with Glenn Close. Beauty. Hillbilly's, you worked on that.
Right. Glenn Close. Well, let's back up a little bit. It was Bram Stoker's Dracula, which I was nominated and won for. Then it was Schindler's List. Then it was Ghost of Mississippi. Then it was 10 years later, after I won the award, I had designed Selma Hayek's makeup for Frida. And I made all the pieces, and I sent my husband, John Jackson, to do the on-set application. Well, he was nominated for the award for Oscars, and of course won, and that was exactly 10 years after I won for the Oscars. And that, I must say, was I was so honored that he won. My name wasn't up there with it, but I know my contribution with Selma Hayek, because I did a test makeup on her like 2 or 3 years before they actually did the film for free, because I knew Selma, and she's just a delightful person, and she really wanted the role of Frida. So I said, okay, let's do it. Let's do this makeup. So we downsized it a little bit for the movie, but contributing to Frida was just great. And then I met Glenn Close, in I think it was about 2008.
You working with her and Albert Nobbs also.
yeah, in 2008, I met her because I was going to do a test makeup for Albert Nobbs. And so in 2008, I did a test makeup. And after we did the test makeup, I didn't hear anything. And, cut to 2 years later, the producer called me back and said, we want you to do her makeup for Albert Nobbs, the film. And I said, great. I didn't know. I thought the film had gone by the wayside. She said, no, Glenn has the rights to it. And we were holding on. We were trying to get the financing, et cetera, et cetera. So it was a start of something beautiful with Glenn Close, because that film, Albert Nobbs, was a labor of love from Glenn Close, and she was infectious. It became a love for everybody that worked on the film. So I got to go over to Dublin, Ireland, show Lynn Johnson how to apply the makeup to Glenn, and also other characters in the film. And
Jane Mathieu.
Yes, yeah.
Jane Mathieu, yes.
And and you do the film, and then by the time it comes out, you've already done 2 or 3 other films. So by the time it came out, it was like there was all this Oscar buzz of it, and I was going, wow, So come to find out, in February, I got a nomination for it, for Albert Nobbs, and it was like, well, that's cool. But, the Academy recognized, I think the people in the Academy recognized flash things, like Bram Stoker's Dracula. There was a lot of makeups in it. It was a drastic change in the character's look, the actor's look. But with Albert Nobbs, it was very subtle. People, well, what did you actually do to her? Because it didn't look like her at first, but then you see it's her, and very subtle things. And I pride myself on doing that now, because if you do if I did a makeup and a person says, well, I didn't know she was wearing makeup, that is the best compliment as a makeup artist, prosthetic makeup artist, that you could give me. And then that project with Glenn Close led to a couple more projects, and then Hillbilly Elegy. And Hillbilly Elegy was great because I was the second phone call that Glenn made after she accepted the role of Mammoth for Hillbilly Elegy. She says, I got this role. I need to look like this character, this real life person. And she sent me a picture, and we talked about it. I said, let me throw things together, and I'll come to your house in New York. We'll do a test makeup and see what we need to do. Well, luckily enough, when I went to do the test makeup, Ron Howard lived right down the street, literally right down the street from where Glenn at the time lived. And it was, he walked in to see her. She was already done up as Mammoth. She was smoking a cigarette, and everything. And he looks at her, looks at me, and says, that's Mammoth, and I, of course, great compliment, but I knew I needed to change it a little bit. So I came back to Austin, where I'd moved from LA at the time, did some changes on it, and then set the makeup artist, Aaron Kruger Mikash, up to do the makeup in where they filmed it. And again, another nomination. And those things come out of the blue. You never know with a film when things are going to blow up.
As a Latino, when I watched the Oscars, I'm like 35 years old, since 98. When I watched the awards from Frida, congrats to your husband, beautiful job, beautiful work. I love everything about Frida. And of course, Salma is a goddess from our Latinos. And the other thing was, what was? Yeah, shout out because Albert Nobbs is from the son of Gabriel Garcia Marquez, Rodrigo Garcia. We know he's Mexican, not Colombian, but he's amazing. And in fact, he will direct finally the work from his father, 100 Years of Solitude. So let's see. Yeah.
Wow, that's great. Yeah.
That's great.
Amazing.
Jhon,
amazing.
No, amazing. Your answers, man.
Como que fue el maquillista de Casper, man. El de Casper. Esto es increíble, man. Casper y Casanova. Así que solamente coméntame eso último, man.
Jhon is amazed, of course, for the project, and he's like, "What? He made the makeup from Casper and Casanova. Anything you wanna say? This is like the last minutes from the interview, but go ahead."
I don't know. You know, I started my career doing makeup on my own, doing all my molds, sculpting, whatever I had to do. I wanted to immerse myself into makeup and prosthetics. Well, I did that. And then as you grow in the industry and your talent grows and you learn, you tend to, and, you know, I was always going on the set, doing my job and getting it out, you know, and that's what I was known for. And also, if I gave a budget for something, I honored that budget. Say, I need this. And producers and directors know that. They really see that. So I was always working on projects, no matter what they were. And of course, as you get bigger and win awards, of course, things around you get bigger. And you start owning a business, as I did, and start hiring people to do the work. Well, it got so big at one point that all I could do was supervise. And I didn't really have time to go in and do hands-on mold making or sculpting because there wasn't enough time. We were either working on a film or television show, like for instance, CSI, I did for 14 seasons. So that was a good money maker for us. I loved the project. I would go on the set and do the makeups and leave somebody with it. But later in my career, I just felt that I was losing what I got into the field to do. So I wanted to scale back a little bit. And about 2013, I got a project called Salem, and it was a television show, and it ran for 3 seasons. And that, to me, was my breaking point in that I could go on the set. We were shooting in Shreveport, Louisiana. I was away from LA. I could do the work there. I could go to the meetings, production meetings. I could talk with the producers and directors and say, look, we can do this. It was a collaborative effort. Go back to the makeup trailer that we had, the prosthetic trailer, and actually make the stuff there, the prosthetics there. So I found that I finally went back to my roots and started doing what I got into this business doing. So after Salem, I just decided, you know, I don't want to run a big business anymore. It's time for me to semi-retire. And about 2017, I moved to Austin, Texas, where I am now, and bought an old police station and turned it into a nice, wonderful studio that it's my fortress of solitude, you know, my Superman fortress of solitude that I can come to every day and do work, sculpting, mold making, whatever I want to do. And it's my time. I don't have to answer to anyone. And, you know, I love my retirement now, being just about turning 68. And I just didn't see myself turning even 60 in LA or 61 doing makeup, because it was like, And looking back now with all COVID and everything, Jhon and I retired at the perfect moment, you know. But working on Casanova, all of those other things that you were mentioning were for me, a matter of overseeing the makeups, saying yes and no. And I grew as an artist after I, had my own lab. Jhon was on a set, I was on a set, I was running the lab, and it gave me a chance to grow as an artist and stand back and look at things instead of, if you're working on something and you're working really tight to it, you don't see the overall picture. But if I would hire a sculptor and he'd come in and do the job, and he'd say, well, come in, look, is this what you want? I'd go, you know what? Let's turn around and talk about what did you do? Are you okay? Is everything okay? Just take their mind off of it. And then we turn around and look at the sculpture and go, what do you see now? And they go, oh yeah, this is a little different. Yeah, I said, perfect. We need to, and gave them points on it, no demeaning, just collaborative effort as an artist. And it made me grow as an artist. Yet I wasn't doing it myself because I was overseeing a lot of projects. Sometimes we get 5 or 6 projects at a time. And that was wonderful to me. After working on Natural Born Killers in 1993, I decided I was on the set every day. We were traveling around. That was Oliver Stone. Jhon was my second on Natural Born Killers. I just decided I don't want to be on the set anymore. I want to own my own business. I want to do my own thing. So I gave up being on the set every day and opened a lab. And from then on was another step, going full blown into owning a lab and getting all these jobs. So working on these other projects, yes, I did work on them, but it was thanks to all these other makeup art, all these other lab people, sculptors, mold makers. I couldn't have done it without them, But owning a lab, that's what happens, is you start getting known for these, and producers come and want you to do it, and then another producer at the same time. So it's great. I knock on wood, I've had an amazing career, period.
Thanks for answers. I know you answer people for thanks for answers too. Before we end, I think in the States, the thing that you did, it's called man cave. When they got the PlayStation and all the things, you got your man cave. It's great because you retire with an Oscar nomination, and you are in Houston. I think Colombia, the football team is playing today in Houston in the American Cup, the Copa America. I don't watch football, but I think our team is there now. No, Matthew, thank you. I think Jhon is going to say something. Jhon, ¿di lo que quieras decir?
Can I say something before we go on here?
Yes.
So I think I got out of the business at the right time, because as we did when I was in the business and CGI came around, well, everybody was asking me, oh, is this the end of makeup effects? I said, no, it's just a transition. But now I see it, and AI is taking over. That's completely different. Completely different. There's a movie called Here coming out that Robert Zemeckis did with Tom Hanks. There's a little bit of prosthetics in it, but most of it is AI generated. And that's frightening for me to see that as an industry, but not as frightening as if I was still doing and trying to run a business. Obviously, things will change and evolve, but it worries me about the old ways, the creativeness of having hands-on. The Marvel films are a perfect example. They'll do the makeup halfway, and then digitally they'll complete the makeup. So where is the craft? Where is the artistic part of that? We're losing it, and that's very sad to me, but that's the way of the world.
Matthew, unas palabras para terminar. Redes sociales, para nosotros un gusto, un placer, un honor y muchas bendiciones.
Matthew, the camera is yours. Tell your social media so people can follow you. And send a big hi to Colombia, to wherever you want. Go ahead.
Thank you so much for having me on. I love you all. And let's all just get along.
God bless you,
Thank
man.
you, man.
God bless you.
You're amazing.
Great weekend, man. Thank you so much.
Great
Bye
weekend.
bye, man. You are the best.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
You are the best, man. Bye bye.